Welcome. We're pleased to continue our series on deep dives into higher education and student affairs. And today's focus is athletics. And we're blessed to have Dr. Monica um, Morita, Jose Acosta, and Ricky Coles, who are part of our Trojan Athletics team, here to talk about just different opportunities that our students have that are interested in working or applying their PASA or EC degree in athletics. So I do want to point out for those that are joining us, you can scan the QR code to check into the event. And with that, we will jump into introductions and learn a little bit more from each of our speakers. So Monica currently serves as the Director of Athletic Career Transition Programs. In 2016, she became the Executive Assistant to the Athletic Director. Previously at USC, she was at USC from 1988 to 2013. Served as the Graduate and Admissions Advisor in the School of Accounting Master's Program. Spent 3 years as executive assistant to the head football coach and 13 years as assistant athletic director and director of student services in student athlete academic services. And so you spent a brief time away from us, and during that time you were in Hawaii from 2014 to 2016. So the first 2 years of that served as the executive assistant to the head football coach at Hawaii, and then in 2016 as the senior women administrator and compliance officer at Hawaii. Hilo, during that time, represented the Pac West Conference as a grant recipient for Minority Opportunities Athletic Association at the NCAA conference. A triple Trojan, earned her bachelor's degree in journalism, public relations, master's degree in public administration, and doctorate in educational or higher ed administration. Welcome, Monica. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Of course. I'm going to read through each of your bios, and then we'll have a chance to hear from each of you. And Ricky Coles, who is an academic advisor, came to USC in August 2017, began his work with SAAS as a graduate assistant for academic advising with track and field and football, and then was hired full-time in January 2019 as the academic counselor for women's volleyball, men's volleyball, and women's crew. He transitioned to working with football in 2021. Prior to USC, Ricky worked with Utah State's Kinesiology and Health Sciences Department as a student advisor. He was involved with several campus programs and was an instructor for a few physical activity courses, and was awarded Employee of the Year for the Kinesiology Department, and his final year was awarded Outstanding Student Teacher as well. Ricky earned his bachelor's degree in Human Movement Science with a minor in chemistry from Utah State University, and graduated with his master's from the PASA program in 2019. Welcome, Ricky. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you again. Yeah, same to Monica. The sentiments. We're excited to be here.
Very good. And last but not least, Jose Acosta joined Student Athletic Academic Services in October 2021 as a learning specialist and provides academic support to a caseload of student athletes. Prior to joining SAAS, he served as the student life coordinator at California North State University College of Health Sciences. Jose received his master's degree in PASA here at SC in June of 2020. While receiving his master's, Jose served as a graduate advisor for the undergraduate student government in the campus activities department here at SC, and as an academic mentor in the Department of Intercollegiate Athletics at UCLA. He received his bachelor's degree in liberal studies with a minor in child, adolescent, and family studies from CSU Bakersfield. And as an undergraduate, Jose was a resident advisor and residential community coordinator in the Office of Student Housing and Residential Life at CSUB. Welcome, Jose. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And just like Monica and Ricky said, thank you for having me. Excited to be here as well.
Of course. So we'll kind of just jump in here, and the premises I've shared with you is we want to expose our students to the various opportunities that exist working in athletics. And so, you know, Monica, I'll turn it over to you and give us a little bit more insight on your journey.
So for me, I kind of fell into being connected with athletics. I mean, I was an undergrad here. I was a, big fan of all of our athletic programs. And then a friend of mine who worked in athletics said, "Oh, the football coach, the new football coach is looking for an assistant. Would that interest you?" And so I'm thinking, how exciting. I would get to meet the football coach. I'm never going to get the job, but I'm going to meet him. So I'm thinking, this would be cool. I'll meet him. So I met the football coach in 1998. And I thought, wow, I have no connections with athletics. They're never going to hire me. And then this football coach was looking for somebody who was sort of thinking about the same lines as he was. He was more of a serious guy. And I apparently our conversation, he really thought was a good conversation. And I got a job offer after meeting him one time. So I'm thinking, wow, this is great. So then when you work for a sport, it might not last long. So I call it 3 years and out, kind of like, like three, what do you call that? It's like downs and you're out in football. It was like 3 and out. So after that, I was able to transition to my second job here, Director of Student Services. And it's because I was an advisor in the Leventhal School of Accounting for 10 years that I was able to morph into this other job in athletics. And because I had worked for the football coach and I had, done everything I could to do things the right way and just work really hard, that I was asked to take over for somebody who was retiring after 28 years. So then after that and getting my doctorate, I thought I have to do something new. So I ended up moving back to Hawaii to work for the University of Hawaii football coach, Norm Chow, who was also on my dissertation committee. And then having lived in Hawaii before, I thought, this is great. Good time to go home. Went home. He got fired. My job got cut. I'm thinking, now what am I going to do? So I had the opportunity then to move to a D2 school, University of Hawaii Hilo. Now working from a D1 school to a Hawaii was like a D1, like a D.75 school or D1.5 school, because they didn't have the same kind of opportunities or resources that they do at USC. So working in football, I'd have to, on Fridays, go to Costco, buy bread, buy peanut butter, jelly, beef jerky for snacks for the guys for the Saturday game. And Saturday morning, we would make the peanut butter jelly sandwiches for the students for the game. Meanwhile, Norm Chow is saying, at USC, I bet they have $1 million just for snacks for Saturday. So after that, went to work for the University of Hawaii D2 school. D2, working in a D2 school is kind of like very different than even Hawaii. So D2 is like you're doing everything. You're working during the day, and then at night, I'm going to work the concession stand at the baseball game. The coaches clean the gym, or they do other stuff. We just do what it needs to happen to make anything work at a D2 school. So that's just kind of like what you do at a D2 school. After a few years of being in Hawaii and realizing that I could not take the humidity any longer, I thought,
Something happened with your volume?
oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it
Okay, you're better now.
better now?
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, so I just thought I needed to get back here. So I ended up reaching out, applying for a job, working for the new athletic director, and met him on a Zoom call. I flew out, met him again. He offered me a job. I'm like, yes, I'm coming back. So after that, we had, unfortunately, there were a series of unfortunate events, I think Lemony Snicket would call it. And I've morphed into this next job, which is my fourth position in athletics, which is the director of athlete career transition programs.
Wonderful. That is an amazing journey, and I we'll get it into this a little bit more in the Q&A, but certainly not the career path you had anticipated at the start of your career. But opportunities become opportunities. That's wonderful. Great. Ricky, I want to give you a chance to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your career journey.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. So my journey in administration, just say advising all the different fields, started in 2013. I was a college student, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I always say this, I went on to study abroad, and study abroad do truly change lives. So I tell that everyone. It's funny because my wife's actually sitting across me and she laughs because her cousin went on a study abroad and she said the exact same thing. So I'm just like, everyone says it, so it definitely happens. So first thing, even if you're not in athletics, go on a study abroad. That would be my first note. But that's what changed my life. That's what started off. Just more about enjoyment of the process. And so I got a job in advising. I worked for that kinesiology department. And I absolutely loved connecting with students, and then also students that have the same interests. That's always something that's common. As if you have an interest with someone, it just always will flow a conversation. It will start something. And so that's what I enjoyed. And they were all interested in the way the body moved, all health. And so I was like, oh, this is awesome. And so I did that for a couple of years. And then I always put that little note, I was employee of the year, because just even as a student advisor, like you still make a difference. And so no matter what role you are in higher education, it matters. And so that's why I always throw that in there, even though I'm really kind of pat myself on the back, a reminder there. But it's just, I think it's really important to show that no matter what position in any type of environment, you make a difference. It's just how you take each day. And so started there and I was figuring out, but my supervisor, she actually worked as the pretty much the liaison between our department and the athletic department. So what she had to do is actually, when she advised students, she would have to plan their schedules and making sure they were eligible to compete. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool and interesting position. Each school does it different. Some campuses have which at Utah State is the department advisor actually works with athletics and ties in the classes. They don't have actually advisors in the department of athletics itself. It's actually separate. So every department is different, but I was like, oh, that's really interesting. That's really cool to see. And so she got the opportunity to work with the staff and the coaches. She knew everyone, gave hugs, and like it was just a fun environment to be in. And I was like, here, that is something I can do in the future. And you never know that as an advisor. Like that's not a position in the world that you ever see. Like it's just you think you're on the campus side and you're only doing department, but there's ties to athletics. So then I saw the PASA program was open, post-secondary administration and student affairs. I saw that was open at USC, and I was like, well, let's take a shot. Applied for it. I'm lucky enough I got in right before it transitioned to the 1-year program, which I enjoyed the 2 years and gave me the awesome opportunity to be a graduate assistant. But this was truly in athletic academic advising. And so that was a different field because I was actually in the athletics department advising students on pretty much, I always say it's the bridge between two worlds, is that we need to help the students balance their academic life, yet we're still making sure that their athletic requirements are being met in regard to eligibility for their sport. And then just making sure the time demand, it's a lot these days. Students have to do so much and so much expected. It used to be just twofold, either athletics and academics, and the students are doing that. But now there's kind of like a 3 and 4. Now there's NIL, which is money making and all of that thing in the world. And that students actually have appointments each day that they go out and do things in the community or go meet with people outside of campus. add that into your 5-hour academic schedule, then your football 5-hour schedule, and then adding that. These students don't have time, so they need support. They do get a lot of things that are great, but again, sometimes with all of those demands, it's hard. So that's why it's really important to have staff like us. And so that's where I am now, and I've worked with different sports and different teams. Each team's different, and I love the dynamics. But again, it's going back to things that I love doing, and I have a good relationship with all of them. And it's just a fun environment too, is when you find something that you really enjoy. And so I know when Jose and Monica was doing their brief introductions, the cool thing also was higher education athletics has a different area. You can find something in athletic that ties to that. So housing, Jose was talking about that. There's actually a position here, a student services director, that you actually work with housing in campus and you coordinate with that. And so that's another thing, is like there's so many little jobs in that career. That's why I was like, oh, it's so cool. I can be an academic advisor and work with the football team. How is that? That's like the greatest thing on the planet. And so that's what I'm here doing right now. And just that's kind of how it's transpired the last few years of my life.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Ricky. And both you and Monica bring up good points with that transferability of skill sets. And some people, sometimes, you know, students discount like, oh, they're not going to mention that, or it wasn't significant, but it's really making sure that you're thinking strategically about like, what are your involvements? How can that be an asset to my next employer?
Absolutely.
Great. Well, let's give Jose an opportunity to share a little bit more about his background, and then we'll start some questions. Jose?
Awesome, thank you. So my career kind of started off with student housing and residence life. Was an RA, and then a residential community coordinator after that. So I was supervising RAs, and originally was going to school to be a primary school teacher. I had this idea that I wanted to be a second grade teacher. I'd worked a sports camp right after I graduated high school. That was actually my first job. And a lot of the students that were participants in our camp were in the second grade. And I just loved that age group. You know, it was just a lot of fun. And I was like, great, that's what I'm going to do. You know, my last year, I was in the credential program at CSU Bakersfield, the same time that I was a residential community coordinator. And as I'm, you know, in my student teaching, I'm assigned to a second grade class. You know, I'm exactly where I wanted and pictured myself to be. I did not like teaching. It didn't, I loved working with students and with people. But I just did not like the lesson planning and, you know, everything else that comes with being a teacher. And so I, of course, am in my last year, and I'm like, okay, well, I kind of put all my eggs into this basket, and, you know, what's going to be my next steps? You know, my parents are going to be on my case. You know, how am I going to kind of, you know, figure out what what I'm going to do? At that time, I really leaned onto my colleagues in student housing and really just kind of picking their brains. Some of them were in higher ed programs already at CSU Bakersfield. And so I kind of was just picking their brains and kind of just asking a lot of questions, doing my own research, and really, you know, found out about the student affairs field and everything that it entailed. And, you know, athletics, I always had an interest in athletics. Grew up playing baseball and football. And then my brother actually played collegiately football. And then my sister currently is at a Division I school playing softball right now. So it's been a big part of my life. And so when I saw that, you know, this was potentially something, you know, that I could, the field was just very, there was a lot that I could do, very open-ended, you know, it was something that really drawed my attention. Found the PASA program through my research. And what really sold me on the PASA program was because there's a couple other programs that I had applied to and was admitted to. But what really sold me on the PASA program was I really liked that there was elective options, and that the options were very specifically catered towards athletics. So that's what really stood out to me and what sold me on the the program. And then it was also kind of how Ricky mentioned, transitioning to that 1 year. Not gonna lie, after 4 years of doing undergrad, I was burnt. And I was like, you know what, I need to do, I can push through 1 more year, you know. So I was in the program. My first semester in the program, I was a GA for undergraduate student government and campus activities, and I loved it. Once I kind of got my footing and, you know, I felt like I was comfortable within, you know, the coursework and within my GA position, I decided that I wanted a little bit more because I wanted to make the most out of that 1 year of the program. And so there was a position that opened up at UCLA, and it was an academic mentor position. And I went ahead and I applied for it. So I ended up joining the team mid-year in January. And I loved it. And that was really my introduction into athletic academic services. And so I just really, really enjoyed it. I felt like it was the perfect balance between, you know, the two things that I liked within, you know, my teaching kind of background, and then, you know, working with people and athletics and, you know, everything like that. And so it was something that was, I felt like a perfect blend. And so I still kind of make fun of my parents to this day because I'm like, hey, like, look, I actually am doing something academic, you know, and teaching and stuff. It's just in a different setting and it's not with second graders. So, um, so yeah, so, and it's, after I graduated PASA in 2020, it was a difficult time to find positions. And so as I was applying, I kind of, you know, told myself, I narrowed it down to 3 areas specifically that I thought would be the best fit for me. And so I told myself student housing, campus activities, or student life, and then athletics. And so as I was applying to positions, those were kind of 3 areas that I was looking at. Um, I had an opportunity come up at California North State University College of Health Sciences. Moved up north to Sacramento for a little bit, and I was working in student life. Loved it. I, you know, was really working really closely with students and was very student facing, which is something that I really, really liked and was looking for. And I just missed home. I moved up north not knowing anyone. And so that was kind of tough. And so I kind of was, you know, perusing around, and I saw a position open up here at USC as a learning specialist. And I just went for it, and one thing turned into another. And I will actually be hitting 3 years this month, which is crazy because I feel like it flew. So, but yeah, that's kind of just my my trajectory in my career and my journey. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. All right, so now we'll open it up to some questions, and I'll start off with, you know, and I'll open this to any of our 3 panelists or all of you to share. What does a typical day look like in your roles? And, you know, on the other side, what does a non-typical day look like?
I can go first. Beat you, Jose. So non-typical is key in advisors' lives. So a lot of our jobs, me and Jose, are kind of similar into appointment-wise. So we work with caseloads of students. So Jose has a smaller caseload, but his is a consistent group of students. But I meet with them about 30 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes every single week. So I actually have a bigger caseload right now because we lost a recent advisor, but about 75 to 100 students, athletes, which ranges from the football into the women's volleyball team. And I meet with them weekly. So I have set appointments that's done in there. But the other pieces of the advising job is we communicate everything. Like I said, is that bridge between athletics and academics. So we're communicating with campus, so faculty, other staff members, campus advisors, and making sure the students are on the right track in regard to their academic schedule. Then also have the flip side, we have the communication with our staff in regarding how academic support is looking. So whether it's tutoring, if they're meeting with an assistant learning specialist or a learning specialist, we build those schedules, making sure that the students are supported all the way through. So that's how usually the beginning of the semester will look, is like we would just start planning, making sure everything is set for the students throughout the semester, getting their academic schedules built with classes, and then their academic support schedule that's built. It's like the first 3 weeks are just, it's craziness of just making sure everything's in line. We also provide student athlete with books. So we make sure they have every book for every class. If they drop a class, we make sure we get those books back, that type of, it's moving parts. But those caseloads are always set, and we want to make sure we're checking in with the students, because you already heard me mention is just the time management and the demand. It's very difficult to balance everything. And so sometimes they need a helping hand of just make sure communicating, sending them a text, don't forget you have class in 20 minutes. Or maybe it's that first 2 weeks. So like that first 3 weeks, we call it chaos, or about organized chaos, because students come in, they're asking questions, they don't like the class, and we're just there with an open door policy. So like our day could be anything, or we could have a coach come down, walking in to our office, just asking how the student's doing. So that's the other side of the athletic pieces. We communicate with the coaching staff, and then we call it the ops, which is the director of operations, all the operation people. We pretty much coordinate everything with them and making sure that there's nothing missed in regard to both of their schedules, the student athletes are doing, they're feeling supported all the way through. So most days for us, it's like it's kind of consistent, but then anything could pop up at once. We might get an email from a professor saying the student hasn't showed up for the first 4 weeks of class. What do you do in that situation? Like, we have to be on the fly, and that's another thing is I talk fast is because we move fast. I slow it down, of course, but our job is very hectic sometimes, and it moves a lot of different miles per hour because something might pop into our world, which is fun for me. I really love that environment. Is some people might like the slow pace, is consistent. That's not here. It was like we get bounced around left and right, and I enjoy that, and that's my flow. But every day is different for advisors, and I think that's what truly people love the jobs that they do. But they also get burnt out easy. So we do have a lot in the academic field. There's a lot of people are burnt out. We feel in education itself, people feel burnt out, but in athletics, it's a lot of pressure too. I always like to throw that in there. Is that I work with the football team, but if someone's in trouble academically, like we never want that to happen. So the coaches look to you and look for answers, and so you have to be ready to answer those things sometimes. So all that means chaos, but it's organized and a lot of fun. So that's my typical day.
Great, thank you. Jose, Monica?
Yeah, I'll kind of just jump in right after Ricky to kind of just like kind of connect our roles and how we work very closely. So where I come in is when a student has their schedule. The best way I can put it is, how are we going to help the student be as successful as possible in the classes given the schedule that they're in. So like Ricky mentioned, the day-to-day is very different. Even though we have, a consistent caseload of students, I meet with students. My caseload looks around, we try to keep anywhere from like 10 to 20, I would say, is what, the normal LS has on their caseload. And we're very student-centered. So it's a different type of support level for different students. So I have some students on my caseload that I meet only once a week. I have some students on my caseload that are just check-ins. I have students that I meet with twice a week, 3 times a week, some every day. So it just depends on what the student need is, and trying to set them up to be as successful as possible academically. So when I say academic support, it's really organizational pieces, helping students, staying on top of assignments, coaching them through assignments. Time management, as Ricky mentioned, is something that's huge right now. Travel, we throw that in, with joining a new conference, with travel kind of being a little bit longer than it normally is. And really just all of the various demands and tolls that go on throughout the semester. I like to say, yes, I'm here academically, but we build such strong relationships with our students, and we see these students so much within the week and the semester and the day-to-day and everything, where we build really, really strong relationships with the students. And that's honestly one of my favorite parts of the role. And you really kind of help them and mentor them in other ways outside of academics. And so I think that's something that's really special about the learning specialist role. And you kind of do a little bit of everything within, yes, of course, the academic support and everything like that. But You're kind of coaching them through how to send an email to professor, how to professionally communicate, how to advocate for yourself, how to um, just different organizational pieces, so it's very one-on-one. And so that's and then of course, just within working with advisors, if there's anything alarming, we notice trends, students are not attending classes, they're receiving emails from professors or other outside entities, about performance or anything like that, or they receive updates on Brightspace that aren't maybe the most positive, or anything like that, any type of update, good or bad. We're on constant communication with the advisors. So that way, again, we're helping support the student as best as possible. And how are we going to put out this fire? How are we going to, problem solve? That's also another part of the thing that I like about the role is the problem solving. You're consistently problem solving. You're consistently trying to figure out how to solve issues. And I find it very stimulating. And so, I really, yeah, I can't talk about enough how much, this role is a lot of fun. So, but yeah, that's kind of just a little bit about what we do.
And kind of like Ricky and Jose, we kind of consider ourselves a family here because we work so closely together, and I kind of think that we're like the parental unit of the student athletes, because we are kind of like they're telling them, no, you can't do that, or don't do that, you need to do this. So we're always sort of like doing that, and we check in with each other a lot because we want to make sure that the student athlete, does everything to the best of their ability. And we can honestly say sometimes that person is not doing something to the best of their ability. And we at times will call them out because we'll check in with each other and we'll say, hey, this person said they were going to do this. Did they do that? So we'll check with each other and we'll be like, oh my gosh. So, but at the end of the day, when the student leaves here, they know that we have had their best interests at heart. We want what's best for them, and we will all work together to make sure that happens. So while they could not like us at the time, because we could be like the voice of reason, like, what did you do? Why did you do this NIL thing right now? You said you had it available, but you missed class. You can't miss class. So, things like that. Or I want to go to the Chargers when you have this site visit. And I said, well, let's check with your professor. Why don't you ask your professor? And the student came back with, the professor said I should not miss class. And like, okay, then don't miss class. So it's kind of like, helping them grow, helping them make their own decisions, but, helping them do it so that they're learning. Because what we want for them is we want them to learn how to get along without us. We want them to be able to be the best person they are after they leave here. And I rely on people like Jose and Ricky because I know that the next step post-athletic career, they need to start working on that now. They need to start making connections while they're at USC. USC is dubbed the Trojan family for a good reason. We want to help each other. We want to make sure everybody's doing well and continue to do well.
Monica, do you want to talk a little bit about what a typical day looks like in your role?
Mine is sort of atypical because I do a couple of big events where I'm kind of like really not a nice person when I'm doing those. They called me Career Fair Monica a few weeks back because I really went after Jose. I said, how could they have checked in? They couldn't have checked in until 7:15, and you're telling them that they're okay now? So I'm like, I'm really sorry. The whole level of whatever, but that's over now. And now I'm on, checking in with them. Hey, if you're applying for an internship, you should do that now. But the student athlete identity is different for everybody. Some of them are not ready to hear that they need to move on to the next level. Their thinking is, and most of the NFL guys who are going to do NFL stuff, they're like, if I'm not 100% in on NFL, just my classes, just to make sure I graduate, then I'm not giving it all. And I'm arguing with them, no, you're an elite athlete with a good time management schedule that you can do it both because you have to take advantage of what you have here. So I have one event in the fall, which is the career fair, and one event, which is the networking event in the spring, which Ryan, thank you very much. You've attended several times. But those are my big things. And then those are the bookends. And then in between, I'm trying to make sure that the student athletes take advantage of the 24 career centers on campus. There are 24. So the students, a lot of them do not understand that there are other options other than what's available here. So it's our ability to make sure that they understand you should go out there, you should connect with other people, so it's very atypical. I think this past week, I met with 4 grad transfer students, which there's a whole different level with the grad transfer students compared to the undergraduate. So, and making them understand, yes, I'm one person here with all of your majors. So really you should talk to this person. So it's my, what I need to do is make sure I'm connected to the campus partners. So that's kind of like my big thing, trying to make sure I understand what's going on campus that I can refer our students to.
Great, thank you. I want to try to squeeze in a few more questions in our time here. But I want to pick up on, I think, Monica, you referenced this in one of your transitions. Well, so the question is, what are some of the biggest challenges you have in your roles? But I think a perception with athletics is there can be big transitions, and how does it impact positions like yours for those of you that have been through those kinds of transitions? I think it's important for students considering working in athletics. How do you manage those kinds of transitions? But if there's other challenges you want to hit on, you're welcome to do that as well.
So a place like ours, the academic area and student services and student athlete development is going to be a little bit more stable than if you were working, let's say, in administration. So we had a couple of changes with the athletic director, and they tend to bring in, they're like a coaching staff on a team. They bring in their team. So that whole group might change. Like when there was a coaching change, pretty much everybody's gone. So you have to think about that. Do you want to be more stable? Because when things are good, things are great. When things are not good, things are not great. And I'm sure Ricky and Jose can talk a little bit about this too, because they've seen it.
Jose,
We are in sync today. Go ahead, Ricky. Just really quickly on the academic standpoint, what in our role specifically, we're seeing a lot of students that are either transferring out of our programs or transferring in. And so I forgot to mention this earlier, but a big part of what our program, our directed studies program, so that's really all our the directed studies program makes up our entire LS team. So there's 7 of us, 7 full-time learning specialists. We have a staff of 12 ALSs, and then we have a staff of around 70 to 80 content support tutors across various, courses at USC. And so our biggest thing within, providing academic support is also helping students become self-sufficient learners and self-sufficient individuals. So as they transition out of USC and, their next endeavors, they are as prepared as possible with, the various skill sets, all of that. But to, touch back onto the question, we're just seeing a lot of that turnover within students, coaching staffs, everything like that. And so as, you know, an academic unit, where I know Ricky will kind of touch on how it hits academic advisors, but for LSs, you know, we have some changes within our caseloads because not every student receives a learning specialist. It's on an as needed basis. And so, you know, we see shifts within students on our caseloads, and then, you know, support, getting them acclimated to USC, getting them acclimated to Los Angeles, you know, depending on where they're transferring from, you know, because LA is a different area, you know, compared to, you know, another, you know, institution or any other city. So we're just kind of seeing a lot of different shifts, you know, in that. Again, I kind of mentioned this a little bit within our transition to the Big Ten. You know, there are with travel, you know, we're kind of really going to see a little bit how that, you know, affects students and, you know, academics and everything like that. So, you know, we kind of just, things are changing. It's a very fast paced environment. But one thing that I will say that makes everything really helpful is, you know, something that has already been mentioned is our tight knit unit. When things get tough, we have each other to lean on, and, you know, we're kind of in it together, and we kind of know, like, okay, pain is only temporary type of, you know, feeling. And, you know, we really just kind of lean on each other to help, you know, get through and, you know, see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then trying to just transition together, and just learn, and, you know, really honestly just do the best that we can each and every day, and just really being there for the students, I think is, you know, the utmost thing. And, you know, I know our staff does that each and every day. So.
All right, I'm gonna add one piece. Whenever I try to speak in front of groups or anything, I try to do the practical and provide something that you can actually kind of work with. So case study here for all of you, and then anyone who watches this video. So as they mentioned, the transferring piece of it. So the actual NCAA policy, now you can transfer without sitting out a year of your sport. And in the past, you sat out a year of your sport. No one ever wants to do that. So you're never going to transfer. Now they've taken that out to 4 to 4 year transfer students. And so we get a lot of anyone who wants to transfer. So again, case study here, USC, if you're transferring in here, let's say you're a junior, you're starting your 3rd year, which aka is your 5th full-time term here at USC. Normal progression students are completing 64 units. That's half a degree, right? And those 2-year students. Sometimes USC, if you're transferring here, they don't accept a lot of units. So if we have a student that comes in and only brings in 48 units that USC will accept, they might be a whole semester behind transferring into USC. That means their graduation tracks off. That means they have to take more classes in the summer. That means they have more demands in their life. And so what we do as athletic advisors is actually, if we get someone, let's say, who's in that 5th term transfer or that 6th term transfer, USC only allows 64 units in transfer. If they've already completed 3 years at a different university, they may go back an entire year. So the NCAA has benchmarks, which that's what we have to deal with, is making sure that they're eligible. So they transfer in the units. If they don't hit the unit, they're not eligible for their sport. So the high stakes, like I said earlier, for our jobs is I'm telling a coach how many units the students bring, aka the university is telling them how many units, but I have to get those units to apply to a major and count for that specific number. So most terms, it depends, 52 or 77 units, depending on your timing of college. So I have to make sure they hit that mark. If for any reason their mark is not hit in a major they declare, they're not eligible. Sometimes it's looked upon us. So very practical experience right there. That's the stress behind our jobs. And USC is a little bit tougher because they have certain policies, the 64 units. Other schools, you can transfer as many units as you want. As long as you complete maybe a semester of units there, you're good. But here at USC, you only can bring in 64. So a little bit practical experience. So our transfers, and this is where I'm seeing on the admin side, because I kind of reflect on this stuff, is that sometimes the recruit, the good student athletes that you've seen play for 2 or 3 years, those are the ones you want to transfer in, but those are the hardest ones to get here to USC. So we actually have a competition battle, is that if a school allows you to come in however many units, and they can go play at a different school, even if they've done 3 years at that college and they didn't graduate and they went to go to a new school, that's a better opportunity for them to get in. But the schools want those people. We can't do that because we're only bringing in half a degree. It's a lot of challenges that we face. So that's kind of a practical experience that we'll go through as an advisor for our new transfers. And that's what makes our job challenging, especially on the coaching side of it. They're trying to bring in their best athletes to compete. If you can't get them in with the school piece of it, that's a little frustration for coaching standpoints. So like we do all that's like a day-to-day thing that we deal with our students incoming. So that's kind of like a challenge that we've seen recently with different transfer and organization changing. Because sometimes the coaching staff, if they're new, they don't understand that. Because their other school, they might have been able to bring in anyone they wanted.
Yep.
So sorry.
And no, I can never see a coach overselling a student on academic terms. And I say that fictitiously. I know that can be a big challenge because they don't necessarily know, as you said.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you for that. So another question. How have we've got three wonderful USC alums working in USC athletics. How have your respective USC degrees helped you in preparing? And I'll say specifically your Rossier.
I can say that for me, I did my dissertation on Polynesian scholarship football players and their experiences in higher education. And by being here, and that was something I was very interested in because that's such a small population that really needs to have a lot of support, and we need to create more support for them. I think even more than we actually have. So, for me, it was really interesting for me to find out about what they thought about their situation here. And when I was able to come up with my thesis and my, I guess what the outcome was, it pretty much lined up to what I thought. And it ended up that, there's God or religion, their family and their sport were the three most important things, which I did this a very long time ago. And I think in the past 10 years, it's been really said over and over again how faith, family, and football are really big with the Polynesian group. So just doing that was something really close to me.
Thank you. Wonderful. Others?
Yeah, I would say PASA really opened up a lot of doors and opportunities for me. I also I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I really enjoyed the curriculum and having, the opportunity to delve a little bit deeper into, student athlete identity and really just kind of understand athletics from someone who didn't participate collegiately. And then again, kind of just what's the word I'm looking for? Compare, experiences between, what I'm learning in class, maybe what I've seen, and then I, mentioned my siblings and stuff, and kind of just seeing, how their how their institutional experience was. So I believe that it really kind of allowed me to kind of dig deeper, and then just provided me with opportunities within, again, I spoke about my UCLA opportunity that I was given, and just being told about that role through my advisor at the time for PASA. So, just really just having, that connectedness, I think, was something that was really really nice. And then, something that you hear a lot within, USC is the Trojan family, and I believed in the Trojan family. I just didn't know, too much of how, it could maybe affect me. And so when I was actually speaking about going into the current role that I'm in right now, when I was interviewing at the various, going through the job search at the second go around, and ultimately landing here at USC, a lot of the interviews that I had received were because of people that I had met in PASA, and those connections within, Rossier. So was very, very thankful for that. And then just as a student standpoint, I felt like PASA specifically just allowed me to just effectively communicate and feel comfortable in advocating for myself and, you know, for students, and kind of just learning and hearing and listening, you know, to others' experiences and kind of working in diverse environments. You know, I think that's something that the program just did a very good job of and kind of just helped me through. And I also just kind of found myself being a stronger writer as well, you know, within like the content and everything. And so it's funny because some of the, you know, as I mentioned, academic coaching, you know, within, you know, papers and things like that, you know, there's some things I remember I had this specific professor that was really big on APA formatting. And it's funny because it stuck with me and it's something that I, you know, am a stickler about when it comes to my students, so that I work with. So, you know, from a student standpoint, that's kind of something that has stood with me. But yeah, can't speak enough about how much the PASA program means to me in my experience. So
Thank you, Jose. Ricky, do you have anything you want to add?
Just, I mean, a quick piece. You learn about the interchangings between just every department. I think that's the great thing about the PASA program and that experience is that every one of people that were in my class, they were usually in a different area of the campus of working. And so I was able to see student life. I was able to see um, fraternity life. I was able to see housing, athletics. I was able to see just business, engineering. Like everyone was in different departments, and so you're able to see how those departments and people flow. And I think that's always just crucial. As Monica stated, that she's really interested in the campus partner connection. That's one thing I again, I like to pat myself on the back sometimes, but I try to know as many people as I can. And I get that comment all the time. It's like, you know, everyone walking through is just because that's what makes an enjoyable experience. So being able to be in PASA, he was able to connect with different groups and across campus and be able to connect closer with them. So they welcome you into their space a little bit more. Like I always say, athletics, if you want a tour of the department, come see me. I was like, I would love to have you in, even though everyone thinks athletics is siloed off, they're closed off, you can't get in. It's not true. We are held off to certain groups, of course, students wise. We have to be conscious of that, but we want the people to fill the department and see and get the interactions. And so that's always the number one thing that I love that the program is that I was able to connect with Monique Allard, who's the vice president of student affairs, that she jumped in that role and she just was on the ground running. I don't know if anyone's ever seen her in her like element, but she's on the ground floor with all the students running around. And like one time they had an event at the pool next to us and like she was running and grabbing people. Like she knows like that, those are fun to experience. And she was one of our professors that went through the program and she was phenomenal. And so learning from those people and how they love their job and interaction here at USC was just fun, and it gets you stimulated into an environment. It's just higher education it's so much fun, and there's so many different areas that you can get involved with. You'll always learn and grow, and so PASA was able to kind of um, give me those opportunities in just the different areas. Especially like I said, 2 years was helpful for me because I get a little bit longer experience. Sometimes when it's one and done, it's quick. That's my view, but I was able to sit there for 2 years and kind of learn and meet a lot more people.
Great. And so my last question, you know, understanding we have, you know, students, some of whom may be graduating at the end of this year, some may be graduating at the end of next year. What recommendations do you have for students that are interested in athletics? What should they be doing now? I mean, we may have students that say, hey, I don't have a whole lot of athletic experience. Maybe I was a student athlete. You know, does that matter? But what are your thoughts?
I have one thought, and that's maybe to join the student membership of N4A. N4A is a group that is comprised of people in the athletic department in different areas. And there's one, I guess, conference a year. This year it's in Orlando, I think. Every other year it goes West Coast, East Coast-ish. So Orlando, and then last year or this past year was in Las Vegas. But Ricky and Jose, what do you think about that?
yeah, I agree. I think N4A is a great opportunity to network, especially if you're looking to get into the field. Because a lot of the times when you are attending this N4A conference, yes, you know, you're attending sessions and, you know, you're trying to grow, you know, developmentally as, you know, as a professional. But there are also institutions that are there and departments that are looking for individuals to fulfill positions that they have. So you know, I would highly recommend. And it's great to kind of just put yourself out there and, you know, kind of just see, you know, what's out there and, you know, different departments. And I know this was also mentioned as well, as every department, every institution operates differently. So it's really interesting to kind of see, you know, the connection, you know, and maybe the disconnect, or how, you know, things kind of operate in that way. So I would also just say, like, just being willing to learn, doing research within, you know, the various programs. And, you know, there are, if, you know, if you kind of mentioned, Ryan, about um, experience being something, being, you know, an issue, or, you know, I don't have experience in it. Um, Another thing that you can also do is a graduate position, you know, so I'll speak about, we have a graduate position here within our department, within, you know, various entities of our department, you know, from Monica Career Transitions Advising, you know, ALS's, you know, with more of like the learning specialist side. And for our GA positions, you have to be a USC student, but for at UCLA, you don't have to be a UCLA student. That was a position that was comprised majority of students that were, or people that were trying to get into the field and kind of just wanted to get a little bit more experience. And so other institutions do offer, you know, very similar, you know, positions as that, where, you know, you're able to kind of get that experience, but you don't have to be specifically connected or identified as a student to work at that institution. So I also urge students to kind of do their research and kind of see, you know, if they, you know, if that's something that they want to do, you know, just to really gain that experience and get their foot in the door to ultimately get, you know, that full-time role. Or to see, you know, maybe, okay, I got this, I don't know, let me do maybe a redirection, or maybe this isn't, you know, another route that I want to go in. So that's something that I also would recommend as well. So.
I'll just jump in real quickly. The last thing, I mean, Jose actually hit it on the sentence that I was going to say, the foot in the door. So the visual representation that I always think is a slamming door and your foot sneaking in and catching it. That's what athletics is sometimes, regardless of the different fields. So I know with coaching staffs, it's again, not higher education, but a lot of those individuals, they start right after, let's say they finish their college career, they're not going to go professional. They start as a graduate assistant on the football team. So that what they're doing, they're kind of coaching, but they're still going to school and learning. Some of those people, those GAs, go through the whole process and now they're head coaches. So if you look at their resume, they started way back when at the beginning, a GA, kind of like we all do. And so you'll slowly get your body in over time with that door. That's always how I think of it. And again, it changes directions. You might want to go somewhere else, but I think just starting in athletics, there's so many different options. Once you get that foot in, you see what is available, kind of like higher education. Once you kind of see a little piece of it, you start to see the other fields. I think it's crucial just to dip your feet and kind of feel it out and see what you want to do and start somewhere.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, all three of you, Monica, Jose, Ricky. Really, really appreciate you spending some time with us, spending some time with our students to understand a little bit more the ins and outs of athletics. Certainly lots of opportunities, lots of challenges too, but a very rewarding area, and certainly thriving area that we have here at USC. I'll just point out we have some upcoming events. This is part of a series of deep dives. So if for those that are able to catch these sessions live, we'll have programs running this over the next couple weeks, highlighting academic advising, disability services, first gen centers, and EOP programs and services. And those will all be recorded and be made available. So if you can't catch it in person, you'll be able to catch it on the career playlist. And then we've got a number of other events highlighting collegiate teaching with your Rossier degree, navigating the early years of higher ed. So please check those out as well. And we'll have a session too that we're hosting as part of the Rossier Leadership Series with Dr. Scott Thayer, who is president of Cypress College. So that's part of our conversations with presidents and that'll be November 6th. So thank you very much. Pleasure having you on the program here, and look forward to seeing our students. Reach out to us if you want to have a review of your resume or other tips and things, feel free. And reach out to colleagues across campus. The great thing about being part of the Trojan family is you always have people that are available and interested in your growth and development. So don't be shy about that. Very good. Well, fight on, everybody.